Welcome. I'm Sue Koch with Soaring Solutions, and I am here today with J.D. Gershbein of Owlish Communications for the Soaring Solutions membership site Expert Interview. Very excited to have J.D. here with us today, fellow Chicagoan, LinkedIn specialist. And J.D. and I met. I saw him speak probably a couple years ago and stayed in touch with him on social media as I wanted to track his expertise. Had the pleasure then of meeting up with him live in person when he spoke again, and from there we've been collaborating, maintained a friendship and professional relationship, and thus is the power of social media. So JD is here today to help you gain clarity about LinkedIn and to demystify more about LinkedIn to help grow your business and continue that professional relationship that LinkedIn can avail you. So thank you so much for being with us today, JD.
Sue, you're a TV host. I'm honored and delighted to be here. You have a real set. You have a camera. Everything's working. Congratulations.
Thank
well
you so
done.
much.
Well
Thanks
done.
for being with us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's dive in. So tell us a little bit more about you and Owlish Communications and how you came to participate in social media and become the LinkedIn specialist you are today.
Well, for starters, I never thought that my story would be of interest to anyone, but the more that I do the work, the more I'm asked to fill in the backstory for people. And they're interested in how I got here, the credibility piece and all. I was no different than anyone. I saw LinkedIn at a time where I was a little bit confused in my direction as to how to really promote my brand. I was doing marketing communications work, scratching and clawing for any website job I could find, any piece of marketing collateral. And at the time I saw LinkedIn, it was right at the start of the economy tanking. So I found myself competing for these non-existent jobs with disposed CMOs and marketing directors who were unceremoniously dispatched from their firms. Very, very tough time for a lot of people. And I found myself in networking events, standing up and saying the same elevator pitch that they were. And when I saw LinkedIn, I very quickly incorporated it into my service offering. Within a very short period of time, it became my service offering. But in the interim, I was using it to try to find marketing gigs. I was connecting with people. I was doing everything that I've always talked about and trying to make good use of the site. And I came in at around the 33 million user mark.
Okay.
So the markets were well defined and the industries were set, but not a lot of my colleagues were on it. So the sell in the early going was to say, hey, here is this unbelievable instrument, get on it, create an account, start doing some things with it. And we kind of worked out things together. So my practice really sprung forth from just being an everyday conversation about LinkedIn.
Great, and being someone on the user side of things, but also with the expertise that you brought to the table at the time.
Tuned in 24/7. I can honestly say that the day I created my LinkedIn account, I became a LinkedIn consultant. I never shut up about it, never minimized the browser. It just got more fun as I went along.
Fantastic, and now you bring that to others.
Trying to.
Yeah. So, JD, you're more than a strategist or a consultant. You are a social business psychologist, going beyond the mechanics and generalized approaches of social media. So, how did this all come together for you in your use of LinkedIn?
Well, I've always been a man of science. Grew up in a scientific household. My father was a great man of medicine and imparted the ways of science to me, and I've always brought science into everything I've done. So after a very short period of time on LinkedIn, I started to look at what was really driving this, because science drives everything.
Yeah.
Scientific process can be attributed to a great many phenomena that we can't explain, and this to me was one of them. I couldn't understand how you can take information on a computer screen, apply it to real-world business scenarios, and create opportunities. This was what drove me, and it is uniquely psychological, with neuroscience operating, behavior, cognition, and the ability to integrate and incubate concepts away from the computer. So what you're seeing on the computer is valid as long as you can apply significance to it. And for me, what came full circle was when I was able to start creating opportunities for those who had engaged me for work.
Yeah.
And we did it through representing them well in their LinkedIn profiles, about training and devising customized strategy and marketing solutions for them, and then giving them the communication and the ability to really free flight on their own about it, to ruminate away from LinkedIn and see these people in real life and make the association of here's the computer world, here's the real world, LinkedIn is the interface. They were into business conversations before they knew it.
And that's the powerful key, is creating that human relationship beyond the computer.
We are our relationships right now. I think it's fair to say, I hope your audience would agree, that our future in business today is dictated by the relationships we build, manage, and leverage. We don't have to have vast, deep online communities. That's not for everybody.
Right.
But the communities that we do have, we have to find out our place in them and manage them accordingly, because that is where opportunity resides.
Yes, very powerful. That's where the success is. So at the time of this taping, LinkedIn is undergoing a bunch of changes. And to take a look at the LinkedIn profile itself, the functionality of LinkedIn, can you discuss some of these changes and shed some light on how it's going to affect the professionals and people using LinkedIn?
This is without question, Sue, the greatest period of change in the history of LinkedIn. Since they became a publicly held corporation on May 19th, 2011, I believe that the company has really worked toward enhancing the user experience. And they've done it sometimes in stages, sometimes sporadically, but I really do feel that their meetings, their conferences, their research, their development is all coming full circle now. The new LinkedIn profile, which as we tape here today is not available to all, is a stellar aesthetic improvement. It's outstanding. It's going to, by itself, promote engagement on the site. And everything that LinkedIn is doing now is being designed to promote that engagement. They are moving people toward the site. They don't want aversion. They want people to explore. They want people to get in and experiment and do their own trial and error and take some creative liberties with their LinkedIn profile and meet people and connect with people for the right reasons. And once people realize that their own rules of engagement are what's going to drive them on the site, they become a little bit more receptive to the plan. They're out extending themselves. They're giving more of themselves to their network, and they're really trying to make an effort to connect on a visceral level and not just be names on each other's computer screen.
Yeah, makes it much more meaningful that way. There's a lot of questions around this endorsements feature, what it means, how important it is as compared to the recommendations function. What do you tell people that wonder, what does this endorsement feature mean, and how does it integrate into the future of LinkedIn?
Wow, great question. Out of all of the features that LinkedIn has introduced since I've been a member, I can't remember any that is met with such confusion than the endorsements. And I think that the jury is still out on how they're going to play into one's true appraisal on LinkedIn. I think it's been designed with the recruiting element in mind, because on a surmise of one's LinkedIn profile, you can see how these skills and expertise sets play out. They populate by virtue of a tally and the person's headshot on your profile. So it's an engagement strategy, but it's also designed to form what I call the grid of competence, that these skill sets kind of settle out, and you're going to be endorsed for things that mean the most to people, those that have engaged you for either the sale of a product or the providing of a service. These are going to be documented. It's a tally again. There's no written evaluation or assessment of your abilities as a LinkedIn recommendation. No recounting of an experience of working with you. So it's just a kind of a superficial tally. We're taping this at a point where the endorsements feature is only about 6 weeks old, so it remains to be seen. But the early returns are that people do like it, they're doing it. And if one thing has happened over any other, it's that people are talking about LinkedIn. The LinkedIn endorsements feature has become the topic of conversation, and that's got people either very excited or rethinking it or re-examining their own presence and saying, well, maybe this is something I should look at. I've been on LinkedIn, I have a profile, I might as well start endorsing others. Why not?
Yeah. So thank you for that. I think that's a great clarity, and of note that the endorsement does not replace the recommendation.
No, not at all.
So JD, for all its immense popularity, LinkedIn is often still viewed as purely a job search site. Do you believe that this is still the case?
Every aspect of business has been defined on LinkedIn, whether it's transactional, diagnostic, observational. Everything is set up for use on LinkedIn, so that anybody who would think it's strictly for job seeking, and job seeking is a business unto itself. There are strategies associated with job seeking and what we would call career development that are not unique to people finding a job. It's the same. Social networking becomes the important piece here. Relationship building, relationship management, how to control a database, how to leverage a network. These things are as important to the job seeker as they are to the business person. And business people just do these at a more automated level and actually go to a place where they can perform it. We're all still getting information on the fly. Mobile technology has made things easier. If you're meeting with anybody, whether it's a sales manager or a hiring manager, you are gaining information about them as you're sitting in their waiting room waiting to meet. So that LinkedIn is strictly for job seekers, I think, is a myth that has been completely shattered a long time ago. It's still the most valuable piece out there for job seekers, with all attention turning to it for talent. But at the same time, this is where heavy hitter salespeople, whether they're hunters or gatherers, are accumulating for lead generation and prospecting. This is where executives are establishing a thought leadership and executive branding platform. And this is where HR people are looking to bring more improvement into the workforce. Does not matter what the initiative is, it can be accomplished on LinkedIn.
JD, you write and speak extensively about personal branding. How does a business professional leverage LinkedIn to create a personal brand? And what are some of the best practices around allowing them to create that brand?
When you talk about the neuroscience of branding, this is right in my sweet spot, right up my alley. Branding is such a psychic concept. The structures of the brain come alive. They're uniquely stimulated when we see faces of people we like, hear their voices, if they're singers, actors, actresses, iconic brands that we know so well, company logos that we favor, our good brand loyalty to certain products and services. I mean, this is branding. This is the emotional, psychic component of branding that really comes alive here on a site like LinkedIn, because now it's attributed to self. We're trying to exert our own brand influence through how we represent on a site like the LinkedIn profile, which has become the most important document in business today. It is really the key to one's personal branding on a professional site. The more effort we put into it, the more we build on it, the more we evangelize it, the more we attract relevant people to it, this is going to build our brand. It can't help but build our brands. In terms of the lexicon, branding has replaced marketing. It's not about marketing anymore. It's about brand and brand management, protecting the brand, isolating a brand promise, brand integrity, brand resilience, everything tied to the brand. It's becoming a buzzword, but one that we won't replace for some time, I assure you. The personal brand, very unique to the concept of self-marketing, because so much of what we call our brand is left for others to decide. I can state that I think I brand in a certain way, or I'm very connected to my brand, or I micromanage my personal brand, which is a fair statement, but so much of how we operate in business circles is decided for us. People make their evaluations, their assessments, their judgments, their observations, and it's made here. Branding is a uniquely psychological concept. The more we occupy people's psyches, what I call achieving a position of psychic prominence and building what I call brand capital. And the more that we're able to get into the minds of others, the better off we are, the more top of mind we are. And when people think of a certain product or service or enterprise, somehow they have to think of us. They expend no psychic energy. We pop into mind as the logical choice to sell the product, provide the service, or get the job.
Yeah, and all goes back to that great psychology of LinkedIn and pulling it together with the brand and the ever so popular, and what LinkedIn does powerfully provide is being fore of mind when someone is looking for someone, if someone needs somebody. So JD, you are adjunct professor of marketing communications at the Illinois Institute of Technology's Stewart Graduate School of Business, one of the first practitioners in the world to design and teach an MBA level course in social media at a major academic institution. I'm very excited that you invited me to be a guest lecturer at this class. It was a wonderful experience, and I can attest to the practical real world experience you're giving your students in developing a career around these skills, and also integrating them into traditional marketing careers. Talk about that experience, Professor Gershbein, and what has that been like for you?
Professor Gershbein, you know, I'm still not used to that, no matter how many times it's said. All I can say is it's been so rewarding thus far. As we tape this, I'm in my third semester, having gone through a whole year of teaching social media to the MBA students. They're teaching me. It's not a situation where listen to the teacher. It's the teacher learning through the students. I have very interactive, very high energy classes. As you know,
Yes.
you were terrific when you came in and spoke about Facebook, Twitter, and integrated strategies.
Yeah. And I learned from them too. It was a very inspiring evening for me. It truly was.
Yeah, I mean, when IIT Stewart came to me as a two-time alumni of IIT and said, JD, we'd like you to design a curriculum. We want to be in the social media space. And as well they should. With technology in the title of the school, they should be a trendsetter. And I'm helping them become that, I'd like to think. We have taken what is quite frankly the most marketable skill today and are giving it a classroom orientation. Employers are going to want and are going to focus on candidates with social media skills. This we know. They're already hiring. Many of the larger corporations are hiring positions that in the job description state social media. It is a social media position. Clearly, social has eclipsed the bandwidth of the CMO or the marketing department. And marketing is looking to social media people for direction. Again, more brand management, more social experience type of stuff. So what I wanted to do was create a curriculum around all of the platforms, all of the skills, with a LinkedIn emphasis, I have to say.
Of course.
There's a LinkedIn emphasis in my class. My kids have to write their LinkedIn profiles. Now, they get some nice advice and consulting along the way, but this is a class requirement and they're graded on it.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to impose upon them is that nowadays in business, it's not so much getting the report to the supervisor on Monday morning. It's really about your ideas, how you present them, how you defend them, and how you use this completely disruptive technology, disruptive in a good way, to advance the goals of the company. So we talk about aligning with a corporate vision. I mean, this is one of the most overused resume terms out there. The corporate vision is what it is. Now you use these social platforms to align with the corporate vision because it's a visual medium and it can support the vision better than anything else. I just love coming in on a weekly basis and talking topics and throwing stuff out for discussion and really letting them try to carry the class. Again, I take notes. I've learned from their papers. I have to say grading papers has been quite an interesting experience. How do you grade this stuff? I mean, everything's so bright. Everything's brilliant. And they're submitting these wonderful dissertations on how they would come in and fix a company using social media. So what they're doing is they are positioning themselves as a capable and qualified candidate with these skills. And from a professional career development point of view, that's how I wanted to design the course. I wanted to prepare them so that when they're across the desk from a hiring manager who's interviewing them, I want them to present well. I want them to know about these platforms and really educate the company as to how their value proposition ties in with what the company is trying to achieve. In summation, I think that social media is trying to find its place in higher education, and there are universities that are scrambling to get a program in place. I'm very fortunate, very blessed. I'm in on this on the pioneer level, and I really enjoy creating value for my students. You were a guest lecturer in my class. You saw the learning in action. What was your take?
You know, I was really impressed by what you were bringing to the academic setting with regard to social media and giving these students a whole new world of careers that they can look forward to. It's very exciting to see the class's involvement. The questions I got back, I was so impressed by. Not only were they asking about technological aspects of social media and best practices, but actually asking questions about integrated marketing campaigns, pull and push marketing, lead generation, creating integrated solutions. And the power of this class is exceptional. So I'm really excited about what these students have ahead of them in the future of their careers. I think it also brings a new foundation and expectation setting about the fact that what we do is a field of expertise. It's not just a hobby, it's a livelihood. JD, for those individuals or businesses who opt out of using LinkedIn, what would your advice to them be?
Wow, the cost of lost opportunity on LinkedIn. Every day that you're not up there is you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
If you're invisible on LinkedIn, you're missing out on something. What we're trying to see people do on LinkedIn is just take the step up and become involved. I've encouraged people to go out there and explore the site, like Lewis and Clark or Columbus or Magellan. Just pretend that they're the first people there and just see what this site has to offer. There's a lot of unwillingness for some reason for people to get involved, or they start out with good intentions and they're on it for a few days, but just like the New Year's resolution around January 11th, they quit. So the cost of lost opportunity is immense. At this point, you're considered a non-entity in business if you're not on LinkedIn. And people don't do business with ghosts. So the more you put yourself out there visible, get a great headshot. Learn to love your headshot, because your headshot now will follow you all over LinkedIn. We are our brand, and the headshot is the most salient feature of brand, and in the new LinkedIn format, headshot becomes prominent. Should not be ignored. So by not being on there, you don't get to be part of the conversation, because this stuff is taking place with or without you, and I think many professionals have heard that. So there's a certain urgency, certain stress element of, I have to get on there. I don't want to miss anything.
Right.
And I agree with that to a point, and I also think that there's an element of fun involved. I mean, for criminy sakes, this is not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's kind of like rocket surgery in a way. And if people just kind of find the happy medium where they're comfortable on these sites and they have a representation on their LinkedIn profiles that really speaks to their capabilities, it's hard not to make good things happen. And I think, suspend your technophobia, don't be a naysayer, lose your skepticism at the door, and really attach significance to what you're doing. The day that I saw LinkedIn, I felt the same way as I do now. I've never, ever let a negative thought enter my head about this. I always thought it would work.
It's a perfect relationship.
I always thought it would be good. I always thought it would be cool. I'm gonna represent on this thing. I can do that kind of thing. I can string a few sentences together about myself. I'm gonna connect with relevant people. I'm gonna draw people to my profile. Stuff's gonna happen. I'm gonna meet people. I'm gonna get business. And I think that's the same attitude that you should have, same attitude that the folks accessing this content should have. It's there for the taking.
Absolutely.
It's your thing.
That's the attitude that creates the fun, and you take that with you and you're certain to find success in using LinkedIn.
Most definitely.
You got the right perspective. So in your world, how does LinkedIn fit in with an overall content marketing strategy, incorporating also into the overall business strategy?
Content marketing strategy has really evolved through the last couple of years. We didn't hear much about it when I first started doing the LinkedIn work, but more and more it's become the real essence of achieving something, whatever those goals are on digital. Content marketing requires strategy, it requires discipline, it requires persistence, and every piece of communication that's out there on you has the opportunity to market you. So content marketing is even in the emails you send. whether you're sending an invitation to connect, whether you're thanking someone for inviting you, whether you're asking for a LinkedIn recommendation, and across other platforms, whether you're liking people, friending people, following people, joining online communities, becoming a part, putting stuff out there about yourself in a very unobtrusive way. This is all part of the content marketing piece, very closely tied with brand. Companies are also missing the boat if they don't represent in the LinkedIn company listings. The LinkedIn company pages have become much more robust, much more engagement oriented. There's a lot you can do on these that you couldn't do before. They look better. You can update what's happening in your company. You can gain following for your company. You can create updates as a company. You can get recommended as a company. So the piece that could be missing from a company level and all that great corporate branding at the expense of not participating on LinkedIn is at stake. So for companies who are really interested in a corporate presence on LinkedIn, just by not playing on the company listing or putting even baseline content, something that they can repurpose on the site is a grave injustice.
So JD, I have a lot of viewers that are content marketing on a variety of platforms. How do we know what's working with respect to LinkedIn?
Well, obviously the metrics and the analytics can bear that out, but just short of that, if they're doing something on LinkedIn to promote the content on the other platforms, that's all that can be asked of them. We really haven't discussed the dynamics of the LinkedIn groups, but there's so much attribution you can make in the LinkedIn groups to get people interested in your offerings and ideally try to drive them to your sites without being too obtrusive or invasive, especially if you're interfering with the integrity of a discussion, which the LinkedIn group managers don't like. But posting updates, structuring your LinkedIn profile, doing what I call opportunitizing your profile, letting people know that you have these other platforms and that there's other stuff out there about you.
Great.
Very key in the whole process.
Fantastic. So JD, what one strategy would you leave us with to impart some knowledge about, or for people who are at a crossroads at LinkedIn and how they can take things to the next level?
Boy, one strategy, huh?
The one big one.
You're putting me on the spot for one strategy. Well, the easy answer would be to make time and learn it and do it. But I will preface that by saying that the time factor is huge for most people. Everybody is time strapped. We have a ton of stuff coming at us on a daily basis. Managing it has become very challenging. And who has the time for LinkedIn? I get that. To those people, I would say, take the health club model. When you initiate at a health club, you have to invest a large sum up front to initiate in the club for the privilege of paying a nominal sum moving forward. And this does apply. Take the time, invest in learning the site today, see what's on it, see what it can offer you, and then each time you're on the computer at less intervals of time, you know what you need to do, you can get to your action plan, you can do the surgical strikes on your homepage, the little tweaks on your LinkedIn profile, answer your inbox, invite people, engage on the site, personalize all correspondence, do the things that can enhance your brand in the eyes of others. That would be a great first piece because none of the other strategies follow suit unless you start to attach value to the time you spend. So your ROI, which is everybody's holy grail, becomes your ROT, your return on your time. But the one strategy that I would advise, which made all the difference for me from the beginning, and I've hinted at this, is create a LinkedIn mindset that works for you. It works. There are great things coming out of Mountain View, California at LinkedIn Corporation. They have done everything that they need to do with more coming to get you on that site and really work it and learn it and connect with fellow professionals and really build robust communities and leverage those communities to great mutual advantage. And that's the thing, participate. It's not a strategy. I realize that. This, we're not really in a workshop setting here, but participation drives everything. Whether that participation is just listening, looking, observing, but always incubating, always letting the reflex arc in your brain attach significance to what you're seeing, create attitudes, assessments, evaluations about what you're doing, and apply it to your situation.
Yeah.
Not mine. I'm out of the equation. When you're in front of the computer, it's your situation. It's your memory. It's your learning. How can you take what you see on this amazing instrument and make fabulous outcomes for yourself?
Absolutely. And I think that does sound like a great strategy, because you've sort of created a new definition around what participation means. I think people think a lot about participating in LinkedIn, meaning they have to be answering questions and doing that kind of work. But when you think about it as participating, taking in, listening, learning, gaining knowledge, it's all participating and making use of it.
You can achieve everything you want on LinkedIn without saying a word.
Yeah.
I mean, the interactive space is designed and optimized for turbo results.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you speak, the more you chirp, squeak, squawk on the site, and the more you're noticed, the more you're seen, especially if you're creating value.
Yes.
I mean, this is a big buzzword in social today. Are you creating value? Well, we could do a whole show on intrinsic and extrinsic value and how is it created.
Stay tuned.
But the goal would be to get on there and feel like a part of LinkedIn community. We talk about assimilation into LinkedIn culture, and as a social scientist, I'm interested in how people view themselves on the other end of the screen. Some people do not see a place for themselves in the computer world, and this is something that you and I might take for granted, certainly the people accessing the content. You have a lot of things that inhibit people from really participating freely on the site. Processing errors, attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, technophobia. These are all problems that kind of creep in. We don't know who has them.
Right.
We don't know who's on the receiving end of our communications. But here's where the cognitive aspect of LinkedIn comes in. The more we critically think our way through these sessions, the more we can see what we need to see, the better we get at recognizing opportunities. And again, the listening piece. Use what you can use, discard the rest.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, JD. I think this is a great final strategy to leave people with, is to start participating. And I know I've learned so much from sitting here with you today. I do every time we talk, but this was an amazing amount of wonderful information. Really appreciate you joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm sure you learned a lot from JD, and I look forward to seeing you all next month at our next expert interview.
My pleasure. Is this your picture?
I painted that,
Do you get
yes.
to keep this?
Yeah, I'm going to take that home with me
This
on
is
the
nice.
bus.
This is nice. What is this, Buffalo?
I think so.
Yeah.
Where Buffalo
I've
chicken
been to
wings
Buffalo,
were.
yeah. Oh, we were off.